Hola a todos, bienvenidos, ¿cómo están? Les habla Shiny Rowlet, Santiago. Hoy día tenemos un invitado muy importante para mí, la verdad, porque no solo es mi amigo, trabajo con él, sino que también ha sido el primer puesto en los standings a pasar a top 8 y quedó quinto en el regional. La entrevista la vamos a hacer en inglés, ya que él habla inglés. Y bueno, espero la verdad les guste porque conseguir esta entrevista ha sido un sueño. Hey Luke, how are you?
Hey Santiago, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Tell me, how exciting was to... This is your fourth regional, you will tell me, right? That you were
Of the
playing
season, yeah.
this season, of course. And through these 4 seasons, this is your like biggest place. I don't know how to call it. Your right?
Yeah. This is my first top 8 at a regional. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have made day twos before in regionals.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this was my 10th day 2 or something like that. But it was my I've been to 4 regionals this season, and I day 2'd all of them.
Yeah, and so you are very well known because you have your channel, Celio's Network, and you brought a lot of attention to Gardevoir on the online tournament of Doom. Remember?
Yes. Yeah. Right before LAIC, I think.
Right before LAIC, you won the tournament. You create this type of deck that was very different for Gardevoir to play because you didn't play any or just play one battle VIP pass. I remember.
At that time, I was playing 0. Yeah.
Zero battle VIP pass. And now you made the first seed, and end up 5th place. And the biggest tournament that we ever had, it was Orlando Regionals. But you played not a creation of you. You played tour list with some spices that you made to the list, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What were those spices that you made and why?
Yeah, so Tord's list was very interesting, watching it unfold over the weekend of EUIC while I was watching from home, talking with friends. So I didn't want to change too much because Tord's list fixes a lot of small issues with Charizard. So like establishing the Bibarel makes TM Devo hurt you less because then you don't have to re-evolve the Pidgeot and the Charizard just to play the game. You get to keep the Bibarel because you just play it right back down after it's devolved. The Cleffa was a card I was already testing in Pidgeot Control to counter Spirit Tomb, which turns off Rotom V, and then seeing Tord expand that into Charizard was really cool. So I wanted to keep the core of the deck because I think the deck was very cohesive in the way that he built it, so that you don't want to change too many things or the deck stops functioning the way it's supposed to. But I did cut Team Yell's Cheer. That was the card that I was cutting basically from the very start. I was planning to cut that card. And there were a lot of cards that could go in its place, but the main reason was that Team Yell's Cheer and Second Toro made the deck able to beat Snorlax Stall, and it made the deck able to beat any kind of control deck that was planning to retreat lock you. The issue was it didn't beat Defiance Vest Mimikyu, which was the way I had been practicing control to beat Charizard all along, and I was pretty positive that anybody coming to Orlando with Pidgeot control would be planning to beat Charizard in a way that's not retreat lock. So essentially, I cut Second Toro and Team Yell's Cheer to accept the loss to Snorlax Stall, and also accept the probable loss to Snorlax Stall, but also accept the fact even if I kept those cards, I wouldn't be beating a good Pidgeot control player, and most of the time there really aren't like bad Pidgeot control players, because like most of the time people that play control lists are like experts at the deck.
Yeah, they have to be.
Really. Right, exactly, because the deck doesn't do anything if you don't know exactly how to play it. So those were the cuts that I was comfortable making. Liam Halliburton, who went in as second seed and ended up winning the event, he actually cut Jirachi, but he hit 0 Lost Zone decks, so he was lucky in that regard.
Did you hit the Lost Zone decks?
I hit 1 Lost Zone deck. It was Ramon Miranda in round 9. and having Jirachi on my board definitely saved me from Sableye. So I was happy to keep the Jirachi. So the cards that I put in place of the Yelchir and the Toro were second Charmeleon. So second Charmeleon was the card that I wanted immediately in the deck.
The
Not
ability
only
one,
does it,
right?
yes, Flare Veil. I did discuss using the one that does 70, the Heat Tackle one. I did have this with me just in case. And I did consider that a little bit because it's good for knocking out Mimikyu, not only versus stall and control, but then, but Guardy was picking up some hype, and Mimikyu is a big part of the Guardy versus Charizard matchup. But I decided that I'd rather always have my Charmeleon protected from TM Devo. So I stuck with the double Flare Veil, and the other card I added was my own Technical Machine De-Evolution, which did surprise one or two of my Charizard mirror opponents. Because once they see, okay, I have Cleffa, I have Bidoof, they assume I've just copied Tord's list, and Tord did not play Devo. So that was my thought process on playing the Devo. If they have a really aggressive start, I want to be able to punish it, or in the late game, maybe they're just candying things because they assume I don't have it. So I wanted to be able to have some sort of ability to punish those maybe overextensions.
Yeah, of course. And you went 11-1-1, right?
Into top 8, I went 12-1-2.
12-1-2. What was that loss?
The loss was round 5 of day 1 against former world champion Diego Casaraga.
Oh, against Future Box.
Yeah, against Future Hands. So I ended up playing
Future Hands. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I ended up playing against 3 Future Hands over the course of the event, all in day 1. I beat the other 2 in rounds 7 and 8, but I lost to Diego. It is a favored matchup for me. The matchup gets a little closer when you switch out the max belt for Prime Catcher. I was playing Prime Catcher, but the games really just came down to game 1, I rocked Sand or I Ono'd, and Diego was able to have a boss off of that. And then game 3, I rocked Sand or I Ono'd, and Diego had a boss off of that as well.
It was lucky.
Yeah, Diego got a little bit lucky, but also, played to his outs in his deck because he's a good player. So he gave himself a little bit of extra advantage to get to those lucky positions. But yeah, so I was able to go 2-1 against Future Hands over the course of day 1, which is pretty good for a matchup that's favored.
Yeah, of course.
And then I never took a loss again in day 1 or day 2.
Yeah, and your other loss was in top 8. And I was watching the podcast of Chip and Azul, and Chip said that he was going around top 8 because he was looking at the matches. And he said that you bricked 2 times in top 8?
Yeah, it wasn't like full bricks, but my side of the board was ugly. It wasn't nice.
2 games. You went 2-0 or 2-1?
0-2 I lost, yeah, in top 8. Yeah, so the way I've been explaining it to people is I had to use Jake's Pokestops, which you typically don't like using Pokestop if you're not a Pokestop deck.
You were bricked. If you have to use Pokestop as the Charizard player, you were bricked.
Yeah. And then in game 2, one of the Pokestops milled my Professor Toro, so that's like a key card in that matchup to heal a Charizard.
Yes, of course.
I think I also had to use a Rotom or Luminion in early game of both games, and then Jake was able to gust knock out the Rotom or Luminion in both games. So basically just everything the Ancient Box player wants to happen happened in those games.
Yeah. Of course. And well, so this tournament ended up very well for you, and I congratulate you a lot. And I told you I was very hyped that you made top 8. And yeah. I wanted to see you on stream. I didn't know why they didn't put Celio's network on stream.
Next time.
Well, you were like on first seat, so it wasn't like, okay, we need to show the winning in matchups, right? So they were
right. That's what happens a lot of times is that they want to show the winning in matchups because there's a lot in stake there. But I was involved in like the community vote on Twitch a lot of times. for like I was very close to being streamed, but they show the deck names that are on the polls when they ask Twitch chat to vote for who they want to see. If they said Celio's network, I think I would have gotten some more votes. People just didn't want to watch Charizard versus Charizard and stuff.
Of course. So let me ask you this now. How was your preparation for this tournament? I've been like a follower of you from years ago, and you do a lot of testing with your mother, right?
Mhm.
Did
Yeah,
your mom
for
was
this,
like a key for this tournament, or you tested with different people on another group? I don't know.
so yeah, my preparation for this tournament was very, very scattered. I'd say right now my mom's a high school teacher, and with the end of the year coming up, she's been very busy, so she wasn't as much of a part of this preparation as usual, but she was definitely still a part of like the mental preparation, like stopping me from changing my deck to something bad at the last minute or something like that. She's always great to have around to not let me submit a bad deck. um but yeah, I'd say a good bit of my preparation is how much coaching I do for Pokemon. I've coached a lot for this tournament, a lot for EUIC. So that alone gives me a lot of preparation, because even though that's my job and I'm doing my job, like I'm definitely also learning, I'm learning from my students sometimes while I'm teaching them. It's a really great process where sometimes we're learning together as we're diving into a brand new metagame, a brand new set, figuring out these matchups. But also, because of my coaching, I hold myself to a standard of figuring out the meta decks and figuring out the best lists, and doing all of this work on the side so my students don't have to.
And you do a
So
lot of investigation, right? Because we have done a lot of videos for Charizard, for featured hands, for what was like doing good in Japan. Do you think
yeah, you and I did a lot of that for the Celio's
do you
network.
think that this like it's on the preparation too? Is reflected
Yeah,
on the preparation?
absolutely. Yeah, what's really interesting is when we made that video, well, actually this is one I just did like as a PowerPoint on my own. When I made that video looking at 100 Charizard lists or something, like I did not plan on playing Charizard Pidgeot all the way back when I made that analysis of the deck, but that's just like one of the like nice things of my job, my career right now, is that I can make a video and then 3 weeks later I decide, oh, I'm actually going to use all that information for the deck that I'm playing. But I will say I was my number one deck up until EUIC was Pidgeot Control.
Pidgeot Control.
That was the number one deck that I planned on playing for Orlando, and my goal was to win Orlando. Like that was just like my overall goal was I wanted to go there and win the event, because I wanted to just get my Worlds invite so I can stop traveling, take some time off, because just with like home things going on, family responsibilities, traveling is not as easy as I'd like it to be. So I was like really going for that first place, just get a dub and stop needing to get things for my invite. And I thought Pidgeot Control was a really good deck to do that with. The issue was how wide I now expected the Orlando meta to be, and with the Ancient Box decks and the Moon Dunsparce decks, and now we have Gardevoir coming out, we have multiple Tauros and Charizard, so more unfavorable matchups started popping up, and even the favorable matchups knew about Pidgeot Control, and Control is a very, very potent archetype, but it's typically best when under the radar, or at least not very, very on the radar. So, Tord's list became public sometime Saturday or Sunday, the weekend of EUIC, and then on Monday, I decided, so Monday, I guess like 5 days before Orlando started, I decided I think I'm playing Charizard to Orlando.
You told me you were playing. Yeah, you told me you were into three decks. I remember you were Charizard, Pidgeot Control, what was the other one?
The last one
Lost Zone Box.
teetered between Lost Zone Box, and then at one point it was Moon Dunsparce, which also made top 8 at Orlando.
And do you know Moonsparce was a creation of my friend Freework who won the tournament? Yeah.
Yes, the person who makes the statistic like PowerPoints on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he and I talked about it actually. And then at one point on Thursday, I was getting in some games with Gardevoir because Stefan Ivanov wrote an incredible article on Alex Szymanski's Substack site, his article site. And like Stefan's article like blew me away because I felt like after reading the article, I like downloaded Stefan's like knowledge of Gardevoir. Like I could just pick up the deck and play it immediately. But I did not love its Charizard matchup because of the Biba rolls in Charizard. Because Gardevoir's plan against Charizard is to go like Iono and kill the Pidgeot so that they have to just raw find the vacuums. But having the Bibarel there made things harder because then after you take out the Pidgeot, they still have reasonable like options with that Incisors draw. So yeah, I didn't love the Gardevoir versus Charizard matchup anymore. So yeah, I just decided to stick it out with Charizard. But my preparation for the event with Charizard started the Monday before Orlando, and between coaching, PTCG Live Ladder, playing against myself, a couple of games when I got to the venue Friday, I'd say I probably played about 50 to 75-ish games with Charizard the week leading up to Orlando.
That is not a lot, right?
It's not that much. I played 0 games with the actual list that I ended up playing because I changed the second tour to TM Devo pretty late on Friday. But I mean, I've played less with decks. I tend to think that the most important part of playing a deck is understanding its matchup conceptualization. So if it takes you 1 game to understand how a deck functions and how it interacts with deck B, deck C, deck D, or if it takes you 100 games to understand that, it really ranges from player to player. But the thing I was most concerned about was the Charizard mirror match. I was very confident I could just pick up Charizard Pidgeot and play 0 games with it and be fine against pretty much every other matchup because Charizard is just incredibly powerful, and I knew I can piloted it at least semi-optimally. But the reason I actually ended up putting so many hours, probably like 30 to 40 hours between Monday and Friday outside of coaching into Charizard Pidgeot, was to make sure that I was at least as good in the mirror match as my opponents would be. Because the mirror match was scary because there are people who've been playing Charizard EX to major events ever since it came out, and this would be my first time playing Charizard to a major event. And I think that my preparation went well because I ended up going 2 wins, 0 losses, and 2 ties against Charizard. One of those matches being in day 1 against somebody who did make it to day 2. And then the other 3 were against William Azevedo in the mirror, who just top 40 UIC. Pedro Pertusi, a friend of William who was playing a similar list, and Liam Halliburton, who ended up winning the whole event. And I dropped 0 matches against the mirror.
Yeah, of course. And how do you prepare mentally, or what is the things that you do for a tournament, regardless of the list you're playing, or how do you do?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I want to make sure, especially for a massive event like this, 2,400 players, I want to make sure that my deck is like strong in a vacuum. I don't want it to just be strong against some decks, and that's kind of what took me off of Pidgeot control. Like I wanted to be able to sit across from virtually anything and win. And round 1 I hit Dialga V-Star, so like that's definitely like hitting something like other and being able to win. But making sure I know my matchup conceptualizations, my ideal turn 1 and turn 2 boards, losing plays that I want to avoid making, winning plays that I want to look out for. that's all the stuff that I do in preparation of the event. But once the event starts, the most important thing for me is to only focus on the present round. So I don't want to think about, how I misplayed last round or who I might have to beat next round. All that matters is I'm sitting down for this round right now and I'm going to win. That's really the mindset I think that helps. Even in day one, people were telling me, oh, okay, so like you can get a tie here, or I'm like, no, I'm going to go win. And then day two, it's like, oh, you can ID twice to make it into top 8. Well, what if I just go win instead?
And you win.
I don't want to take any risks with a tie and have to do the math. I'd rather just go in there and try to get the win.
And you're there to play.
Possible.
You're there to play. You're not there to, sit, sign, leave.
If,
no.
Like if an ID, if a tie is like a sure thing, then it's absolutely correct to take it. And like getting into top 8, depending on, maybe if you want to see the person you're IDing in top cut, or if you want to get a different seating, sometimes it changes. But like IDs in day one, I'm very, very against, because I'm there to win the event. And then a shaky ID in day 2, I'm also very against, because if I want to make top 8, I'm fine with having to win to get there, because winning gets you to the better placement. So I'm fine earning that spot instead of taking a shaky ID, unless like I'm against like an absolutely abysmal matchup piloted by a fantastic player and they want the ID, and like an ID gives me a chance at making it in. I think I would take the ID in that situation, but yeah, just win.
What's the next thing for Celio's network, for Luke Morsa as a player? Are you gonna play? You told me you were like, you need some caps and challenges to qualify. Are you gonna go to another regional? Are you gonna go to NAIC? To NAIC, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm at 404 points right now, and that is from 4 regionals, 3 cups, and 2 challenges. So I've been to a pretty minimal amount of events compared to a lot of people that are like competing on the circuit. And just because of like my own physical and mental ailments, that has kind of been the path for me for other world championships as well, getting what I call a budget invite, not really just traveling every weekend, because between my physical and mental things that keep me down a little bit, and then also finances, sometimes it just isn't very feasible for me, and then also some familial responsibilities like I mentioned earlier. So I'm kind of used to having to put a lot of emphasis on each event, and trying to do the best that I can. So I can technically finish out my invite from just League Cups and League Challenges, but I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself to have to find all these League Cups and Challenges to drive to, and then I have to win each one. So I am planning on going to the Puerto Rico special event in May. I can't travel internationally at the moment because I've been battling some passport issues for a few years now. So I figure, the Puerto Rico SPE, that's something I can go to without a passport. So I might as well take that chance and make up for all of the international events I don't get to attend. And then I am attending NAIC. Even if I get my invite before NAIC, I am going to attend it, because it's just the best event of the year and I love it. And I've never gotten a great placement at NAIC before. My best placement. Yeah, I want to win, right? I think my best placement at NAIC is top 128. Like, it's never been fantastic. It's been okay, but not fantastic. So I'd like to, get my invite before NAIC and then go there trying to win and kind of use that as practice and preparation for Worlds.
And have you seen some of the new cards? Are you thinking what to play on NAIC? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to, because like I'm a coach. So like I already have people who are messaging me that are like, hey, my next event's NAIC. I'm not like, I don't have my invite. I'm not going to get my invite, but I want to go to NAIC and have the best chance and compete So like people already, want those opinions from me. What decks stay good? What decks become bad? What cards are good? I just put a really quick, just like looking at the new cards video on YouTube before recording this with you. And that was looking at the, I think, Mask of Change half of the set. There's also the Crimson Haze half of the set. I actually think that Crimson Haze is more impressive than the Mask of Change potentially, because the Crimson Haze has Blood Moon Ursaluna EX in it, which is like a colorless Radiant Charizard, and I think that card is absolutely crazy. Like, it's going to be in so many decks.
Yeah. Have you seen the last Japanese Championship? The last.
I've briefly looked at the Champions League Aichi on PTCG Legends.
Have you seen that almost all the decks are playing that Ursaluna?
Excellent, absolutely, yup, yeah, and I'm really expecting like, just about every deck you play against is going to have either Ursaluna or Unfair Stamp in it. So that's why I'm saying that Crimson Haze half of the set is like really, really impressive. And then we also have Iron Thorns EX, which I'm not sure if that's a gimmick yet. Like, I'm not sure if that's actually going to be good. It's a really, really interesting card.
Top 16 in the Champions League, I think.
Yeah, like a quad Iron Thorns deck did, and that's why I say, like, just seeing quad Iron Thorns, like, it looks a little clunky. It looks like a bit of a gimmicky deck, like things we've seen in the past, like, quad big basic Pokemon, and it does well at one event, and then people learn how to play against it. So I don't know. We'll have to see if Iron Thorns EX is like a deck on its own, or if it makes Future Box viable now, or if you just throw one into future hands. But overall, I would expect Charizard, Lost Zone Giratina, Lost Zone Box all to stay very, very relevant. Yeah, like I was telling somebody the other day, like Charizard, Pidgeot, and Lost Zone Giratina, I would expect these decks to survive, their survivability and their viability to be something like Mew VMAX was. Like Lost Zone Giratina, probably more like if Mew VMAX was always like a tier 1.5-ish, tier 2-ish deck. I think Tina will like stay there for a long time because it's just a hard deck to counter. Like it hardly ever has bad matchups, just because of like all of the attacks and all of the versatility that come with Lost Zone Giratina. And then obviously Charizard, Pidgeot is basically just every like insane card shoved into one deck at this point. Like Charizard EX is incredibly overstated. Pidgeot EX is a free computer search every turn. We have Bibarel, which is like, that's an ability we've seen over and over again being included in top decks.
And you can draw.
The Cleffa, yeah, there's so many great cards in that deck. It's gonna take a lot for Charizard, Pidgeot to not be tier 1. I haven't seen anything from Crimson Haze or Mask of Change that makes me think Charizard is no longer tier 1. I do see a lot of powerful cards. We have the Ogre Pond, the Grass Ogre Pond. Just it being grass type is something, but then again, it has 210 or 220 health, so it's not that big of a threat to Charizard. You could also just pop it with a Radiant Charizard if you need to offset the prize trade. So yeah, I highly doubt that Charizard Pidgeot will go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, because everyone talk about Iron Leaves. Iron Leaves didn't win EUIC. Iron Leaves didn't win Orlando.
No, like I wasn't even worried about Iron Leaves going into Orlando, because like I'll just use Radiant Charizard my next attacker. Like, you take 2 prizes on my Zard, that's great. I'm gonna Iono you and smack with Radiant Zard, or Roxanne and smack with Radiant Zard, and then you're probably going on to an odd prizing after that. So like, you have to knock out this Rad Zard, and then after that I have another Charizard EX coming up. So like, Charizard EX, as long as it functions well, it should be the best deck or one of the best deck for the foreseeable future. So like, just don't over-tech it.
Yeah, of course. And just to wrap up this interview, would you mind telling us an advice that you will tell us to go to a tournament or to practice or anything? Just a quick one.
Other than the one that I said earlier,
By the
taking
way,
it
I'm
one
sorry.
round
By
at
the
a-
way, I love your t-shirt.
Oh.
I love your t-shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so other than the what I said earlier about taking it one round at a time, something I've been telling my students and taking internally for myself is to treat every game like it is the championship game. You know, too many people sit down for round one and treat it like round one. Sit down for round one and be at 110%, and then be at 110% round two and round three, and so on and so forth. You know, treat every game like it's the winning in, or like it's the finals. Whatever gets you the most hype, whatever gets your brain prioritizing playing well. Tell yourself that's what you're in. You know, yeah, pretty much treat every game like it's the championship game, and eventually you'll make it there.
Awesome, Luke. I really invite everyone to watch Celio's network because you make such a great work, and I do such a great editing. No, I'm sorry.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I do. And no, but I know you will post a video about your topic. I know you will.
We'll have that coming eventually.
Because I have to edit the video. And I really thank you for this interview. I plan to do this often, so I hope I have you again for,
Absolutely.
I don't know, NAIC top, first place NAIC
Top
Luke
one.
Morsa
Top
again.
one.
Top one. Again, not just first seat, but winner, champion, and for worlds too. So Thank you, Luke. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope everyone have like a great absorption of your knowledge, because I do, and I'll tell this on my own. I really don't test so much, and every time I go to a game or I don't know, a league challenge or a cup, I always think of the videos that we made, and they help me a lot. So I think everyone has to not just see the videos, but to take the coaching, because it's awesome. Oh, look, thank you. Any last words?
No, just thank you, Santiago, for doing this interview with me. This is really fun. Getting to interact with you outside of, being a friend, being my editor. Now I'm getting to be on your channel, so it's really nice to expand kind of our friendship like that. And hopefully, maybe some new viewers might hear me from your channel. If anybody's watching, go ahead and follow me on Celio's network if you'd like, on Twitter and YouTube, and make sure you subscribe here as well if you're a new viewer here.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. And I'm gonna change to Spanish again. Gracias a todos por haber visto esta entrevista. Espero realmente que la hayan entendido. Muchas gracias, Luke, y gracias a todos ustedes por habernos visto. Thank you, Luke. Bye.